So now we have a reusable card component. And what I want to do in this lesson is utilize it within both our taco card and our burrito card. And as we'll see, our new card component will help us to remove the duplicate code in both of our respective card components. So let's begin with taco card right here. I'm going to import my new card component, and it's going to come from a file in the same directory. So I can do a // and import from my card component. Then what I want to do is identify any of the code right here that is already represented in my card, and I can go ahead and remove it. So that, of course, involves the div right here, as well as the add to order button right here. So I'm going to target the div. I'm just going to click within the closing bracket, or sorry, the opening bracket and the closing bracket. I'm going to remove all this code, and I'm going to replace it with our card component. This is our opening component tag. And of course, if we have an opening tag, we need a complementary closing tag. So right here where we have our former div, I'm going to close my card component from above. Okay, so this is a totally valid syntax. We talked through it in the previous lesson. And now we have content between the beginning component tag and the closing component tag. Okay, the next thing I want to do is remove the add to order button render right here. There we go. And that means we no longer need the import either on line 4. So I'll delete that line, save, and here we go. So take a look at what's going on here in our taco card. We are rendering a card component. And what does that mean? Well, that's fundamentally a div, right, with a bunch of styles on it. And then inside that div, at the very bottom, there's going to be an add to order button. Then we are providing content JSX between the opening and closing card component tag. So what does React do with that JSX? Well, as we saw in the previous lesson, what React does is it takes it and it assigns it to a special prop called children that is going to be available in the card component. So in our card component, we are destructuring that prop called children. And what are we doing with that dynamic JSX? We're saying put it within the div above the add to order button. So what's going to happen now is we're going to have the image and our taco name above the add to order button within this div in the card. So we've taken this bit of dynamic JSX and we have injected it right here through the use of the children prop. And we could have put the children prop wherever we wanted, right? That's the whole point. It's dynamic. But it now allows us to inject a dynamic bit of JSX within a common structure, right? Or a common foundation. The div stays the same, the button stays the same, but the dynamic content we inject right here can vary depending on what the parent component renders. In this case, the parent component is taco card, and it's giving me an image and an anchor tag in that order. So now let's repeat the exact same refactor for our burrito card component. So I will open up my burrito card file, and it's going to be very similar. Right here, I'm going to import my card, and that is going to come from the card component file, right? I'm going to get rid of this div right here and render my opening card component tag. I'm going to get rid of this div right here and provide the closing component tag for my card. So this is still just one card component render. In here, I'm going to get rid of my add to order button because that is represented in my card component already right here. I'm also going to get rid of the import right here on line 4, save that, and there we go. So now our burrito card is utilizing the exact same technique. It's rendering a card, which means it's rendering a div that's creating a flexbox with an add to order button at the bottom. But now for the dynamic JSX content that will become the children prop right here, we are providing a different collection of JSX. We now have reversed the order here, right? So we have the name of the burrito followed by the image. So this is the content that varies between taco card and burrito card. And notice how we have isolated that unique content to taco card and burrito card while isolating the repeated content, the div and the button, to its own separate card. So the beautiful part about this design is we have now made this approach very flexible. So for example, if our product manager comes to us tomorrow and says, I want the background of the card to be gray instead of white, previously we had that code in two places. There was a div right here, and there was a div in our taco card, right? And we would have to go to two files and change the background in 2 places, which means we are violating the dry rule of programming. Dry is short for don't repeat yourself. Now we have taken that div and extracted it to a single location, the card component. So it's as simple as editing that background right here as an example, changing it to gray, and that change will be reflected in both the taco card and burrito card, right? So we're reusing this content by making card flexible. And of course, the way that we have accomplished this is through the use of the special children prop in React. React will automatically give you the JSX that you define between the opening and closing component tag as the children prop. And that is the problem that children is supposed to solve, the exact same problem that we had here. When you have some bit of customization or dynamic content within the body of a given component, but you also want to keep elements that are the same, perhaps around that unique content, right? So you want to surround your dynamic content with other JSX or other HTML elements that are the same. And it's kind of hard because you have to inject it right in the middle. But the children prop solves this problem perfectly because it simply gives us that content via a prop available to the component. And then you can choose wherever you want to render that children prop within your JSX markup in that child component. So hopefully that makes the benefits of children clear. And also the syntax obviously is not that crazy. So instead of a self-closing component tag, we simply render an opening and closing tag and provide the children content in between. All right. So that's all there is to cover in this lesson, and I will see you in the next one.